Meanwhile, issuing a media release this evening, Sri Lanka Cricket said that the disciplinary committee of SLC met this evening and has directed retired Senior Superintendent of Police Lakshman De Silva, the manager of Anti-Corruption and Security at SLC, to conduct an inquiry into this incident and submit his report within 7 days to the CEO of SLC. The media release states that the CEO, Ashley De Silva, will then forward the said report to the disciplinary committee for further action.
Investigations were conducted this morning regarding a human skull and skeletal remains which were found in a gully along Sri Mahavihara Road, Kohuala. The police said that the skull and skeletal remains were handed over to the Faculty of Science of the Sri Jayawardhanapura University for further investigations.
The skeletal remains were found last morning in a gully along Sri Mahavihara Road in Kohuala. The police media unit said that the human skull and skeletal remains were found by a dengue eradication troop. We questioned the police on the holes which were seen on the skull. The police media unit said that investigations are being carried out into the holes visible on the skull. The police further noted that the skeletal remains were inspected by SOCO or scene of crime operatives at the location they were found.
News First U reporter WAK Valikanda filed this report on the discovery of a human corpse in a reservoir in the area.
A human corpse was found in the Saragama reservoir in Kittawella, Kurunagala last evening. The Kurunagala police are conducting further investigations into the discovery.
U reporter Venwen, Kurunagala Sita, Valikanda.
Welcome back to the news. A conference organized by the National Collective for the Abolition of Provincial Councils was held in Maharagama yesterday.
A large group, including members of the Mahasangha, ministers and MPs and civil society representatives, participated at this conference. Take a look at Colombo, look at Vellavatta, look at Maradana and look at Sedavatta. Where is it that Sinhalese, Tamils and Muslims cannot live together? Thereby, there is no purpose in dividing a tiny country like Sri Lanka. None of the factors that make a case for division and provincial councils are existent in Sri Lanka. We identify the establishing of provincial councils as an act that is unnecessary and as an act that will sow the seeds of war and conflict forever. These provincial councils were introduced in violation of democracy, the popular will and without legitimacy. Thereby, we will not hesitate at any instance to say that any person who supports this is an enemy to the history of the country, an enemy to the popular will, and an enemy of the Sangha and the Sasana. The Janata Vimukti Peramuna says that they will support this attempt to cut off the tail. They say that the entire thing must be abolished instead of cutting just the tail. They did not vote in favour of preventing the North and East from merging and changing the system. They said it was simply cutting off the tail. We shall see who is opposed and who is in support. The left can bring 10 people to Hyde Park. Can the other parties bring votes? The people of this country will take care of that. Your Excellency the President, we ask you to bring it forward and we will provide the 150 that is needed.
Views were expressed on the 13th Amendment to the Constitution at media briefings convened yesterday and today.
The Janasada Peramuna has said before and is saying now that the 13th Amendment must be abolished. But if provincial councils are not to be removed, then let the central government take over land and police powers, amend the 13th Amendment and keep the provincial councils. If an election is to be held in the north, then some of the factors of the 13th Amendment that are conducive for secession must be removed. We have the short message that they must not hold elections in the north without taking away powers conducive for secession like land and police powers and the power to merge provincial councils. I believe that the President recently said for the first time that these powers will be removed. We greatly appreciate this.
The 13th Amendment is the only constitutional provision now pertaining to devolution of power. But over the past 4 years, the government has made a clear commitment that it will build upon the 13th Amendment so as to bring about meaningful devolution. It is our position that this commitment must be fully implemented. It would be very unjust and very improper on the part of the government to engage in any action which contravenes this commitment made by the government to the international community, to India and the United Nations.
Vimal Weerawansa එකක් කියනවා.
Vimal Weerawansa says one thing and Partili Champika says another. This is what the government's opinion is today. Minister Basil Rajapaksa is supposedly visiting India soon. On one hand, Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the 13th Amendment will be granted. And on the other hand, Gotabaya Rajapaksa is saying that the 13th Amendment will not be given and that we will not do as India says. Now they have called upon Basil Rajapaksa. So who is ruling our country? Now in India, the Foreign Minister Khurshid, then Ranjan and Shiv Shankar Menon will meet Basil Rajapaksa and say this is what should happen. Otherwise, we will see what will happen in the future. Now they are saying that they will introduce a Parliament Select Committee. 18 from their side and 13 from the opposition. But no one from the opposition will go. Does anyone have faith in Parliament Select Committees?
විපක්ෂයේ කවුරුත් මේකට යන්නේ නැහැ. තේරීම් කාර්යක සභාව ගැන කාටද විශ්වාසයක් තියෙන්නේ?
Let's now take a look at the newspaper cartoon of the day, which we selected from amongst today's English newspapers.
Tonight on our segment Words of Wisdom, let's take a listen to the words of ailing former South African President Nelson Mandela from the year 2000.
I feel angry. You have a limited time to stay on earth. You must try and use that period for the purpose of transforming your country into what you desire it to be. A democratic, non-racial, non-sexist country. And that was a great task.
On several occasions in the recent past, Action TV reported on the injustices caused to students as a result of the Education Circular number 4 of 2013. Although an amendment circular has been issued, these students are yet to receive the justice they seek and are entitled to.
Although the Education Secretary issued Circular number 27 of 2013 on the 28th of last month, removing the shackles placed on students, preventing them from transferring between national schools or 1AB grade schools, it appears that the heads of some national schools have decided not to follow this circular and not to respect the rights of the students. The experience of a group of parents who went to two prominent girls' schools in Colombo today to inquire into the possibility of enrolling their children who secured exceptional grades at the concluded ordinary level examination to advanced level classes at these schools affirms this fact. Another group of parents who visited a national school in Veyangoda this afternoon had to face a similar experience. Until Circular number 27 of 2013 was issued on the 28th of June, the circular that was in effect was Circular number 4 of 2013. Under this circular, only students who exceptionally passed their ordinary level examination, hailing from areas coming under the purview of the Madurawala and Millenia divisional secretariats in the Kalutara district, could be enrolled into advanced level classes at the 66 national schools and 166 1AB grade schools in the Western Province. Against this backdrop, if anyone were to say that there are no vacancies in the advanced level classes at these national and 1AB schools, it would be unacceptable seeing that so few students were enrolled. As such, the Secretary to the Ministry of Education should not think that his task has been completed with the issuing of Circular number 27 of 2013. What the Education Secretary should do is take steps to inquire into why there are no vacancies at these schools and how students were enrolled to these schools, at least in keeping with the statements made by the Minister of Education regarding students in the country, while the Secretary himself was at his side. In order to protect the human rights of the school children of this country, we must carry out the duty of giving these children more opportunities at schools with more facilities. Meanwhile, a group of parents who lodged a complaint with the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission saying that their fundamental rights have been violated and were given a conclusion from this commission that their rights had not been violated, sans an investigation, returned to that same commission today. This visit was made to request the Commission to investigate the prior complaint given the situation that has currently arisen. An official at the Commission had informed this group of parents that they would be informed as to whether their complaint would be investigated or not in a week's time, as the senior officials of the Commission are currently participating at an international workshop on conducting a national-level inquiry on human rights. Incidentally, these parents lodged a complaint on a national-level issue that has affected their children 61 days ago.
Economists say that the primary cause for the depreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee against the US dollar over the past few weeks are weaknesses in the country's import-export sector. They point out that if the rupee continues to depreciate, then the prices of goods dependent on imports such as crude oil and electricity will increase in the future.
At the beginning of last month, the US dollar was valued at 128 Sri Lankan rupees. However, the value of the dollar against the rupee increased to 130 rupees by the end of the month, the biggest depreciation since June last year. As per exchange rates published by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka today, the US dollar was valued at 132 rupees and 20 cents. The central bank recently cited speculation in foreign exchange markets as the cause for the depreciation of the rupee. Speaking to the media recently, the governor of the central bank too reiterated that the depreciation of the rupee was not a cause for fear. However, economists say that the rupee is depreciating because of rising import expenditure and declining export revenue.
The trade deficit is reported as $1,825,000,000. This unhealthy trade deficit makes always the rupee depreciated. Now, why this particular trade deficit increase up to that level? When it comes to the import expenses and the export income, we can see that throughout last couple of years, particularly when it comes to export income, we can see that the export income is continuously decreasing for last consecutive 10 years, and it came at like $1,696,000,000 now.
Pereira also pointed out that the increase in demand for the US dollar has caused the depreciation of the rupee.
When we increase the demand for dollar, we can expect that there will be a depreciation of our rupee, I mean the Sri Lankan rupee. Whenever our rupee is depreciated, normally the prices of all imported products will be increased. This is the reason why we can predict in future there will be a sort of inflationary scenario in Sri Lanka. There can be direct inflation as well as the indirect inflation.
Still in local news, Mayor of Kaduwela, G.H. Buddhadasa, lodged a complaint with the Elections Secretariat today.
When inquiries were made, Elections Commissioner Mahinda Deshapriya said that he had received a complaint.
සාධාරණ පොලිස් කොමිෂන් එකක් ඉල්ලන මිනිහා. රටේ සාධාරණත්වය ඉෂ්ට කරන්න කියන මිනිහා.
There are people asking for a fair police commission and justice in this country. A report has been issued by the Human Rights Commission. It says here that election regulations and the law have been violated in my area. During the provincial council polls, Vimal Veerawansa and Buddhika Jayalal violated election laws. There is no point in blaming the Grama Niladaris. If a bribe is taken, that is wrong. It was a mistake made when amending the electoral list.